Welcome to a random video. So I get so many recommended movies, which is amazing, and I'm really sorry if I don't see your comments with recommended films, but I try to see all of them. Um, but there's just like it's just not gonna happen to have them all on video and have them all in reaction videos and like full things on Wednesdays. I stopped counting at 200, so I have way too many movie recommendations. So what I'm gonna do when I have time is just watch them and then do like a little ending type thing and have a little like compilation of my thoughts at the end of a movie video. I don't know how regular these are gonna be. I have to kind of carve out time to watch movies, so we'll see. But I just watched Bird Box. My mom watched it and she wasn't really a fan, and so I was like, I don't really know how much I'm gonna like it. I loved that movie. I really did. The whole concept of it was interesting. There's a maybe there always has been, but I feel like lately there's just a lot more like end of the world annihilation videos, movies, sorry. And I'm guessing maybe there's been more before and I just didn't really notice, but I feel like that's like kind of a thing lately is, end of the world thing. And this was a totally different concept that I really enjoyed. So, if you haven't seen it, first of all, you should watch it because it was actually really good. But like after the first, I think probably like half hour, I think once we got to the supermarket, I wanted to know what was gonna happen to Tom. Because you know from the get that there's just the three. And I was like, I have to know what happens to him. Like, I don't want to find out, but I have to know. Because he's not there, and that's not cool, and I need to know what happens. And then it happens, and I was like, it was really sad, but it was really like strong of him too, and I was impressed, but I was really sad. But of course, you know that like you know from the beginning who is there, so you know who's not going to be there. So but I was still really sad. And then, oh my god, towards the end, everything from the rapids to the end, I was just like on the verge of tears because she doesn't have either one of them look, and then they come back together in the forest, and like she's really sorry, and she tells the end of Tom's story, and then she gives them names, and I like my eyes are still burning a little bit from watching that because oh my gosh, no, it was so cute, and it just made me tear up. And then you see where they are in the deaf school, not the deaf school, that was dumb, the blind school. And I was like, well, duh, that makes sense. Actually, I wonder if a blind person like could be turned because they can't see it, but their eyes can see it, if that makes sense. So I wonder like how that would work because they still have the birds of a warning system. So I don't know. I just wonder how that would work. And then she gave them names, and I really liked it. I liked the whole concept. I'm not necessarily confused, but I just wonder how some people can see them and still be alive. I wonder if like these, I don't know, invisible wind things, I don't really know what to call them, like mind control things, um, can like inhabit people, or if there are people that are already like have enough stuff going on in their head that like it doesn't affect them, or it actually like helps them, maybe, I don't know. So that part still has me a little curious. I haven't like looked into the movie at all to see if there's any like ideas on how that happens, but that part still has me a little bit wondering. um But I really enjoyed it. I actually wasn't sure that I was gonna enjoy it once I realized, because I didn't like look into the movie at all, so I didn't really realize like what the premise was. Um, and once I understood it was, I was like, okay, fine, like yeah, another end of the. But then like I just still really liked it. Like it in a way reminds me of A Quiet Place. Um, in that same kind of in a way, because you have that like family aspect of it. And they like can't make noise, and in this one like they can't look out at the world basically. So it just reminds me of that. And I loved that movie too. And I loved this one. And I was just like flopped over on my pillows, like, oh, I'm just gonna enjoy watching this movie. And then by the end, I was just like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? This is stressing me out. Like, that was the progression of Bird Box for me. I really hope you guys watch this movie if you haven't. And if you have, let me know what you thought. And now, on to the next one. Go to bed early for like 3 days, and all of a sudden you're tired at 11 o'clock. I just watched Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Is that what it's called? Yeah, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I was slightly worried I remember the title wrong. Um, I don't know what I was expecting. I guess some kind of typical type romance thing of like the lovey-dovey and then the breakup and then the back together, which is, I guess, kind of what you got, but not at all in the usual typical way that you expect. Like, at all, because they pay people to forget each other and then come back together. So I was really confused when Joel was telling the doctor how he met Clementine, and he was saying that they met at a party, and I was like, you guys like met on the bus, train. And then she had like blue hair when she was with something like that. Elijah Wood's character. And then she had like blue hair. I was like, does she have blue hair like anytime she starts a new relationship? Is that a thing? But no, because at the same time, because then they forget each other and they come back together and it's really cool. And then Sarah, who's heartbroken, valid, and thinks that what they're doing is wrong, valid, but it's personal choice. So, sends them the information, and then they like both freak out, and I was really worried again. But then, I loved that ending. I loved the ending. I loved it. I feel like that would be a good opportunity for growth and like a great connection to start a relationship on. Like, hey, we've actually been together, and yes, I was really pissy in this tape because they both were, but you can listen to those and like talk through it with understanding, and even like have a chance to grow and like see how you are in other people's eyes, which like in a sense doesn't matter, but if you want to be in a relationship, like it kind of matters. Or if you care about it, how you come off to other people and like how you are and you want to change that, then like that could be helpful. And it could be like such a great start, I feel like, to a relationship, to know what went wrong, as long as you ignore all of the dramatic, I feel like, complaining moments, because there were a lot of those in those tapes. It could be like a really good start. So I find like that was where my brain was going at the end of it. It's like if they both sit down and calmly and communicatively listen to these tapes, that could be so good. And also, I I really was very confused until like we got to the whole doctor's office part and like you've been erased, and then I was like, oh my god, okay, this all makes sense, because like there's just like creepy people breaking into his apartment at night, but like he knows them, but yeah, it was all weird until like they put it all together. So I just sat back and I was like, it's gonna make sense, it's fine, and it did. And then, oh shoot, where was I going? I rambled myself off my train of thought. Wow, that was good. Oh, I remember. You see their relationship backwards in memories, and with him trying to hold on, which was super cool. Like, I loved that. I really did love that. Um, because you see, I don't know, it's interesting to see a relationship backwards. I feel like you've seen a couple of other movies that are kind of like that too, where like you see it in pieces. They jump back and forth in the timeline, and so I actually kind of like watching it that way, because then you can see like why they fell apart. But then you end on such that good high note of like why they got together and all the good memories, and you see him trying to hold on to her and take her into other memories to try to save that, because he's like, actually, I don't want her erased, and actually, I don't want to be broken up. Like, I was just being petty, and I regret this now. Like, I just love that. I really did. right? You get all of like the goodness and like the happiness. And one of the things that makes me really sad is I read in quite a few places, and like people that are like therapists say a lot of the times when people break up, it's because of traits at the beginning of a relationship they like found endearing, or think they're like the reason that they fell in love with someone can be like the reason they fall out of love with someone. And that's really sad. And so I liked kind of ending of the memories at the beginning and the reasons that they did fall in love. And at least you really just really have it from Joel's perspective. But the reason they got together and all that happiness that they had and the things that were like fun and quirky and interesting and weird, and having that and enjoying that and appreciating that. And I love having that on the ending with the memories, but then also you have that like the beginning of their new relationship too. And so I really loved it. I feel like everyone, not just people in romantic relationships, but like with your parents and your siblings and with yourself, like be nice to have those good memories. I mean, you have them, but like to see them and relive them. And I really liked that part. I was very confused at first, and I was like, what the heck is happening? And then once I got past all that, I really enjoyed the movie. I really did. So thank you to whoever recommended that to me. I hope you watch it if you haven't seen it. If you've seen it, let me know what you think. And we're going to be off to the next one. So I just watched Freedom Riders. Excuse me, I did cry many times. Throughout the movie, I feel like it's one that maybe should have been watched for a full video, but that's okay. I really, really, really enjoyed it. So, Freedom Rider is about a teacher who's a first-time teacher in LA. Right after school is, what did they say? It was after an integration program, and so there were a lot more like African Americans and Latinos. And there were definitely Cambodians, but like there were other Asian ethnicities as well, that were now in the school that used to be seemed like basically all white, and was really a good school. And now these kids brought it down, and yeah, that's how the school saw it. So it was focused on this one class that ultimately like cats kept a diary, like everyone kept a diary, and it became a book, and it was really, really good. So I had to actually like start making notes throughout it because there was a lot of things that I knew that I was gonna forget how much it like bothered me during the film, or things that I thought about. So there, a lot of the movie, I was like, how did she do this? Like, how is she doing this? She's inspiring all of these kids that are from all of these different gangs. They literally separate themselves when they're in the schoolyard. They separate themselves in the classroom. They separate themselves in the streets. Like, they are all separate. They have their territories. Like, this legit, like, everybody knew somebody who had been killed. Most people have been killed. Most everybody, I think everybody, had been shot at. Like, it was like a life that I could never imagine. It was intense, and so I was like, how the heck does she do this? Because it was all the things that like it was incredible, and it was heartwarming, and it was inspirational. um, but she really just brought them together. It was all about breaking down those boundaries, erasing those lines, getting rid of the territories in the classroom, and just coming together on common ground. Like, all of them had these similarities, terrible similarities, like bad life situation similarities of losing family members and being shot at and not good things. Um, but that just erased the lines. And so she really brought them all to the same playing field and into a safe space too. Like, she wanted to listen, she wanted to understand, she got extra jobs, she bought them books. Like, she cared about them, and it really reminded me of when I worked for a bigger company, a big company. And no doubt they cared about their employees, but I feel like the education system is really reminiscent of these large corporations where they care, but it's all just about like the majority, and how the numbers fall. But what gets lost as companies get bigger, at least in my experience, is the fact that everything is built on the individual. Like, you really have to care about the individual person and have people in place to care about the individual person. Like, you can't just say you care, but run everyone on numbers and not, you know, you don't have to be a therapist, but like, you just care. And maybe that's not like automatic to everyone, I guess. And it just, it is 99% of the time for me. I feel like you just, and like, just as a like, you realize they're a human being and they have a human life, and you just have this like general amount of like, you care for people, right? Like, and what they're going through. I don't know, maybe that's not automatic for everyone, but I feel like that gets lost. And apparently gets lost in the education system as well, which I knew, but I can see it. It's just different. I don't know. It's different to know something versus to watch something, even if this is based on a true story, but it's still semi-fictional. Like, when you see it, it just hits me differently, I guess. Um, and her husband, like, he was an adult. Obviously, they're married. um, and he just, like, she was so passionate now about being a student and caring for all these kids in her class. Very passionate about it. And he lost his passion for what he wanted to do. He wanted to be an architect, and he lost that. Now, oh well, now I wouldn't be till I'm over 40. So, like, he, had a job he liked, and that's great. And he let himself settle there. And watching his wife have passion and have drive and stay late and work with these kids and take extra jobs to be able to give them good supplies, because the school wasn't going to. The funds weren't there for like these type of particular classes, because the books were probably going to be destroyed and they couldn't understand it anyways, which was obviously not accurate, or at least not accurate if you're willing to help them. Um, and so she had all of this, and he let himself get rid of all of that for some amount of safety or security or whatever it was that in reality isn't even there. And he, before the age of 40, really just gave up on his life and let himself leave a marriage because of that, instead of being inspired by it. And there were a lot of things I had to say during this time, like, you're making excuses for yourself, and why can't you support her? Like, I don't know. I feel like supporting someone isn't that hard. Like, it doesn't mean you have to give them all of your everything all of the time, but just be like, listen, be like, keep going, That's awesome. Like, it's not, I don't know, to me it's not complicated, but like, whatever. And it wasn't the relationship he wanted. And like, I appreciate their honesty at the end, but I feel like they could have had a lot more honesty for a year and a half, like before that. However, that was not the focus of the movie, so I like let that go. Um, and then the head of the English department was, she had also been passionate about education at a time. And she showed that in some of the meetings with the school district, school board, whatever. Because she was like shaking and brought to the verge of tears because of connections that she's had with students as well, and taking things personally that she didn't know how to teach a class because she doesn't know how to teach this class. And I feel like that's awesome that she was passionate about teaching, and she did a really good job, and she did connect with some kids. But that also doesn't mean she knows how to teach these kids. Like, one of the things that she says is these kids brought like destruction and vandalism and gang violence and whatever to the school, and they're being rewarded. By having a good teacher, they're being rewarded for their bad behavior. And that not behavior. Education isn't something that you earn. It's not something that you earn with good behavior. Like, yes, you have to open yourself up to be educated, but you don't have that right. You don't have to earn that. Like, that's just a right. At least in this society, like, everyone should have the ability to get education. Maybe the school system isn't necessarily the best, or what you learn maybe isn't necessarily always relevant. It's a whole other topic that I can't really speak on from an educator's perspective. All I did is go to school. But you don't have to earn that. You don't get a good teacher by being a good student. Like, she was just a good teacher and made good students and kids that graduated high school and went to college, the first people in their family to do that. Like, that says something. And maybe you don't know how to teach them, you don't know how to connect with them, you don't know how to bring them together. And that's not saying that you're a bad teacher, that's just saying that it's not saying you're a bad teacher, but saying that you're not open to changing your system to work for the kids. Like, you want the kids to be the little stars that fit into all the little holes, you know what I'm talking about? Or like puzzle pieces, I guess. You want them to fit in instead of making it fit you. Sorry, I have an 18-month-old niece. Like, I just think about kids' toys. That's my analogy now. But she wanted them to fit the mold, or they just needed to get out of the system as quickly as possible instead of her making a new mold for them. And that's what Miss G did. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but it was Miss G is what they called her. She created the classroom as a place for them instead of trying to make them fit into the classroom. I think that was awesome. And then when they had the guest speaker, who was the lady that hid Anne Frank and her family, and the others, one of the things she said that I loved: everyone can, within their own small ways, turn on a small light in a dark room. And I love that. One of my friends and I have been working on a project, and it's within this like whole big system that is not set up well, and is not good for people, and it's not always good for the environment, and it just kind of sucks, but it's like a part of our lives. And so we watched a documentary and we were like, oh my god, it's like this big like mess. How like how and I think there's a problem with a lot of things. Like, so many things are huge. Like, poverty is huge. All the millions, is it a billion people that live below the poverty line? Like, that's insane. Like, the amount of water out there that's not clean for people to access is just an astronomical problem. Everything to do with climate change is an astronomical 100,000 faceted problem. Like, it's just ginormous. How do you start walking into that? And I really took something away from one of the ladies in the documentary that's like, you can't change these whole systems. Like, I mean, maybe you can, but you don't just walk into it and like change everything that like hundreds of thousands of millions, billions of people are doing. It just, let's be like a little realistic. But you can impact your community. Like, you can change how this system works for this group of people. And then maybe you can change how this system works for this group of people. And like, you can do your part, and your part doesn't change what everybody else in the world does, but it's your part, and that's what matters. And I just love that. And I think this whole movie is about that too, is doing your part. You impact your community in the ways that you can, in the helpful, positive ways that you can, and you go from there. You build as you can, or like with being a teacher, she's going to get a new class of students. Like, then you impact them. Like, that's your little community, and you do everything possible that you can there. And does it change the whole education system? No, but it helps so many of these people get through it and graduate and go on and have new options and opportunities in their life. And that matters. That's what matters. And that's all you can do. And I think it's really important to do it. And have I been the best at that? No. But as far as I can see into the future, I still have a lot of life left to do that. And I love and appreciate the opportunity. That was a lot. That was a lot. But I took a lot from that movie, and I absolutely loved it. And if you have not seen Freedom Writers, oh my god, you have to watch it. If you have, please let me know what you thought. And this is going to take up a lot of the video, so there's probably only going to be one more in here. But let's go ahead and watch it. So I just watched The Help for the last of this reaction batch, so I'm calling it. Video. This one, I was going to say series, but we're talking about this one video. So I read the book, I want to say like probably about 3 years ago, or so, give or take ish. Um, and I loved the book very much. I think it was one that I read really, really quickly. Like, I feel like I read it when I was sick. And so I just like read it in like a day or two. I read it very fast. And I did really, really like the book, and I did really like the movie. I knew I wasn't going to remember all the particular details of the book, so it wasn't really going to bother me, which it didn't. And the movie still rang very true to the story, like the story in the book. There were some differences I remember, like um, that Celia, so Miss Foot, like Johnny's wife, the woman who stole him, but not really, she never learned how to cook. Like she could never, she just couldn't. She could never cook. Um, and Minnie was pregnant with another child, obviously, by the end. She was very pregnant when the book ended. She did leave her husband, who was very abusive, and they show more of that in the book. But of course, you're not going to get all the ins and outs. Some of the other differences I remember is so they really just kind of skip over like the Miss Myrna column. So Skeeter, the dog is throwing bones apparently. Skeeter got the job at the paper of writing the Miss Myrna column, which is like a housekeeping column about cooking and stain removing and things like that. And Abilene does help her, essentially like writes it the whole time and answers all the questions. And then at the end, when Skeeter leaves, because she gets a job at a, I think it was, I can't remember if it was at a bigger newspaper or at a publishing company. In this, it was at a in the movies at a publishing company. But she convinces the editor of the Jackson paper, whatever it was called, to give the job to Abilene because she's the one who's been writing it the whole time, anyways. And so they do that, which is awesome. And so she actually ends up getting paid, I think, a little bit more doing that than she does, well, they call them maids, but they do like all the cooking and the cleaning and the extra cleaning and all the child rearing. Like they literally just do everything in the house, all the grocery shopping, like all of that. So they're way more than just maids or the help. Like they literally run the household. One of the other differences is I don't think Skeeter went to New York. If I remember correctly, she was still in Mississippi, but and her boyfriend did not break up with her. She actually moved to, she got a job somewhere that was closer to where he was because he did work on oil rigs, so he was on the coast a lot. And she got a job closer to him, if I remember correctly. So there were some like small differences. I did really miss that the Miss Myrna part and Abilene getting that job because I think that was a really cool opportunity. Like a paper gave the job to a black woman. I like that's what people say, but that feels weird to me. It's an African American woman. Um, I don't know. I just don't like. I don't know. It doesn't bother me saying that like I'm white, but I just don't like calling other people by their skin color. It just I don't know. It sounds weird to me. And that's probably just a me thing. Um, and I don't, it wasn't like a big, like, it wasn't like a thing, like they didn't really, the editor didn't really want anyone knowing, so I think she just like dropped off the like column writing each week, and she never like went into the building or anything, but I think that was like, I still liked that, and I liked that she had another opportunity and to do the writing, which is something that she always did. Like she did write her prayers, she did write her stories, like she liked to write, and so having that, and still having that some amount of financial security. Another thing that I liked in the book, especially with Abilene, is she talks about her like gardening and her budgeting a lot more. So what food she's growing. I think there was at one point that like somebody had extra in their garden and gave her some extra food and that like helped her get through a week one week. I think she had missed a day of work, and so they're literally like, stop. I mean, talk about living paycheck to paycheck. Like they do make less than minimum wage. Um, I mean, in the 60s, and in this story, and so her having to be very particular about budgeting and the fact that this family had saved so much money for both of their sons to go to school, like I don't know, I don't want to say it's like fascinating, but like it's really interesting to learn from that perspective, like from the perspective of the people that are doing this work, and rather than just like this is how it used to be, but like I'm sure that's still how it is for some people today. Um, but to see their perspective. So I figured I was gonna enjoy the movie because I did really enjoyed the book, and I did enjoy the movie. And I mean, obviously the book's better because the book you just have a lot more in the book. But they did a really, really good job on the movie. They showed the relationships really well and lack of relationships. And definitely like the separations between everyone. You got a lot of little nuances with like gestures and facial expressions, which I really appreciated. And you do get the story. You get the whole thing in the movie. There wasn't really anything that was big or was important or was like character building or was really an integral part of the story was left out. The only thing that I missed was the Miss Myrna columns, but everything else that I can remember from the book was in there, and so I am really glad that all of that was in there. I also think they had a great cast for it too. Also, Minnie was like had a sharper tongue in the book than she does in the movie. But Octavia Spencer still does like a wonderful job in that role as well. They did have a great cast, who I think really showed their characters very well. Can you stop it, please? I got distracted with Edgar and kind of lost my train of thought, but I think it was at the end of my train of thought because I can't think of anything else that I was going to say about the movie. But I do really enjoy it, and I really enjoyed the book. So if you like reading, read the book, The Help. If you don't like reading or prefer watching movies, then watch the movie, The Help, if you haven't seen it yet. If you have seen it, let me know what you think down below. And this is going to be the end of this video. So I will see you guys, well, in the next one, but I don't know. I'll see you in the next video, I guess.